Welcome to the book review of Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Today we're going to cover Chapter 5 from Book 3. As you can see, Book 3 has 12 chapters, and Chapter 5 is Sexual Morality. And in this chapter, C.S. Lewis said, "This is the most unpopular of the Christian virtues," and rightly so. And C.S. Lewis laid out two different rules in the beginning of the chapter. The first one is the rule of chastity. The second one is the rule of propriety. The first one does not change. Same for all Christians for all times. Just like math formula, for example, 2 plus 3 equals 5, it does not change based on the situation of society or culture. So offending chastity is intentional, he said. Some people know the rules and principles, but they want to break it. That is violating the rule of chastity. On the other hand, the rule of propriety changes according to the standards of society and/or culture. We should be able to differentiate these two because it's very important to know which one we are talking about. So this one, for example, in a cold country versus really hot area, different regions have different way of wearing clothes. So depending on how you live and where you live, that will determine the propriety of that situation. So if somebody violates that propriety, that could be unintentional, which shouldn't be confused with breaking the rule of chastity. So C.S. Lewis continued to explain about the Christian rule, meaning either marriage with complete faithfulness to your partner or else total abstinence. So he's comparing these two values, Christian value versus the sexual instinct. Something is wrong here because they do not reconcile. Absolute abstinence unless you're married versus the sexual instinct that we see around us. Two completely different way of living. So he went on and explained more about human instincts. His analogy included our desire to have food. He said if we eat whenever we feel inclined and just as much as we want, we may eat too much, but not terrifically too much. Why? Because we may eat 2 people's portion or 4 people's portion every now and then, but we cannot eat 3 times a day, enough for 10 people in a normal situation. How about sexual instinct or desire? If a healthy young man indulged his sexual appetite whenever he felt inclined, and if each act produced a baby, then in 10 years he might easily populate a small village. Out of control situation. So he's saying that the sexual appetite, like other appetites, grows by indulgence. And he concluded this way, although perversions of the food is rare, the perversions of the sex instinct are numerous, hard to cure, and frightful. When he said perversions of the food is rare, he means by this. If you're allowed to eat whenever and whatever you want to eat, most likely you will still look for a food. You may not delve into the rock or trees, for example. So it's rare and very limited. But perversions of the sex instinct, as we can see around us today, it is beyond our imagination. He pointed out that a lot of us are not really sensitive towards the sexual perverse. One of the reasons is the lies we've been told for the several decades up to this point. The first one is we should treat sexual desire as the same as any of our other natural desires. Desire to eat, desire to sleep, and we have to see it the same way. But he's saying that is lie. I'm going to elaborate that a little more in the next couple of slides. And he said people are telling us that abandoning old way of living, hushing it up about sex, it'll get better. Just open it up and share with other people. Don't hide it. However, we know it did not really work because in the past 20, 30, 40 years, people have been opening up this matter and publicly talking about it, revealing their sexual preferences, but it did not really help us to address these perversions. Naturally, modern people say sex is nothing to be ashamed of. We can take this one from two different approaches. The first one is reproduction of humanity and pleasure, and second one is sexual instinct. The first one is advocating that sex itself is not bad, which is true, and it agrees with the Christian value too, because Book 3, Chapter 6 of Mere Christianity is talking about marriage. So we'll talk more about that. When you say it is nothing to be ashamed of in conjunction with sexual instinct, then it is one of those lies that we hear all the time. And often the business people are using it to get the benefit out of it. Because once people are obsessed with the sexual desire, and they will have a little or no resistance to temptation, which in turn would become profit for certain business in that industry. So the schemes of the devil is clear. The first one is devil is making us feel that the desires we are resisting are so natural, healthy, and reasonable. It's almost perverse and abnormal to resist them. Like any other schemes of the devil, it starts with the truth, because the sexual desire is natural, healthy, and reasonable. However, the devil makes us to believe that any sexual act which you are tempted at the moment is also healthy and normal. Any and every sexual act and desire that we can act upon it, that's not the case. It'll only produce chaos. The second one from the schemes of the devil is attempting Christian chastity is impossible. And absolute chastity, how many people can achieve it? Almost no one. So perfect chastity is beyond human effort. That is true as well. But we know, through experience, in many occasions, we learn that we cannot trust ourselves even in our best moments. How many of us start a new year with New Year's resolution? And how many times did we repeat that and failed almost every year? It is really hard to accomplish something on our own effort. That's when we turn to God and ask for His help to teach us to learn to depend on Him. That's the only way we can resolve this issue. And in conclusion, he mentioned few important aspects of being virtuous. The first one was those who are seriously attempting chastity are more conscious and soon know a great deal more about their own sexuality than anyone else. If you have honest effort to control yourself and seriously attempting chastity, you will soon understand more about your sexuality and related issues. And he said, even attempted virtue brings light, while indulgence brings fog. So he's emphasizing self-control. Attempted virtue even, it's way better than indulgence, because that'll only bring us chaos and uncertainty in our lives. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them under this video. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in Book 3, Chapter 6, Christian Marriage.